again. Okay, so today we have another video with Jennifer and myself. This one's a little different in the sense that we have two very distinct topics that we're talking about. Again, as you may recall, if you've watched our videos before, we just jump on Zoom and start talking. And so you kind of get what shows up for us. We never really have anything in mind. Sometimes we kind of have an idea of something interesting to talk about, but it's never with with the idea of definitely doing a video. So you're kind of getting just the raw form of this when we do these videos together. So today we're going to talk about CERN. We are. And then we're going to launch into talking about autism. And hopefully you will walk away with a little bit of a different perspective on autism. As I've always said, take what resonates for you in these videos and toss the rest aside. Hopefully you'll walk away with a couple things that you can add to the puzzle of your own journey forward, because that's what we're here to do, right? We're here to take a look at our journey, define it, and learn from others and take pieces and say, ooh, this resonates from my journey. This is what makes sense. This is what I understand for myself. So hopefully today you'll take a couple pieces away for your own life journey forward. So I'm Carolyn, I'm a channel, I'm a distance energy healer, and I'm a spiritual awakening mentor. And I offer these channels for you, often from the light keepers, as well as from Jennifer and myself, to help you on your ascension and awakening journey forward. So before we get started, what I want to do is just give a quick kind of update where I'm at within the last week, pretty much since the energy update went out. I don't know if any of you have noticed since kind of the 22nd, but then we had the new moon this past week, right? So we had the new moon, which they just said was an accelerant, okay? So we're heightening our sensitivities to everything. We're heightening what we're doing with respect to getting triggered, and a lot of the collective stuff that's happening out there right now, you know, primarily with the flashpoint of Russia and Ukraine is triggering within us. You might not make the connection. Triggering, though, within us, more work to do. I'm going to kind of just leave you with that today and not go into, because this could actually be a video in itself. But what I want you to know is we have had heightened energies, and we knew this was coming. If you recall my energy updates in the past, when I mentioned this the last time, we kept seeing this heightened increase, this heightened acceleration, this heightened climb March, April, okay? Just kind of moving up into this, what I'll just say, heightened state of, oh, they just said expansion. Okay, well, it doesn't feel like that, right? Or it doesn't really look like that, but it happens by these kinds of things occurring. So needless to say, we have seen that we are accelerating in this manner, and as a result, what is happening with all of these energies coming in with 222, with the new moon, a very heightened sensitivity, a heightened triggering, a heightened need to like clear out final remnants of things we've worked on for so long, or to continue that inner digging and healing just when we think it's done. But we're getting triggered by the collective energy for purpose. I just want to leave that with you right now. So think about how that all applies to your current journey and how you felt in the last couple of weeks, particularly in the last week. And hopefully that will assist you forward. So I'm going to just send you right over to the video with Jennifer and myself. We're going to talk about CERN, and we're going to talk about autism, and then I will wrap up with you in the end. So enjoy the video.
Well, I can tell you that the storyline, okay, and you know, I told you that I felt like here recently more than everything, because I've been going through the process, and it's been, you know, ups and downs, and very high ups, but very low downs, and I'm like, okay, enough. You know, we need to elevate here. So I've like especially the last couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, I said, I'm just done with this. I have no patience or tolerance for this anymore. And we're going to pull out of all of this negative. I don't want to do dips back into it. We're done with this, right? So I've been kind of really, really pushing it and really expecting a lot out of my team. I'm, you know, doing, and so yet yesterday, I get to kind of this point where we were backstepping through some things. And I, you know, like I said, I feel it all in my body. Mm-hmm. So I'm backstepping, and I kind of intuitively know what the next step is. I see it a little bit. And then it was like this huge, like cheering almost like, oh, we got, and I said, what happened? They said, we got Earth back. I said, what do you mean? Well, come to find out, there is a, I don't know if you want to call it a timeline or whatever. I think it affected everybody. I told you a lot about this, a lot of different versions of Earth, like you hear Gaia or you hear Nova or all of well, I think the primary, there was something happened where Earth, the primary Earth, just disappeared, and they had to go with Plan B.
Okay, wait a minute. I got to make sure I understand this. You're saying today you were getting this sense of this.
Told me, okay, this is what they told me. And so this is like a lot of these weird kind of feeling places that we've been where we say, okay, we don't really feel like we're on Earth. We feel like we're everybody kind of got diverted because almost like to a different planet with a simulated reality. This is going to sound very trippy, I know. It was like we were diverted. Some of us were on different planets, but they had the holographic, so it looked like here. But a lot of us are saying, I don't feel like I'm on Earth anymore. I try to ground, I can't feel Earth. I don't know what's going on.
And the whole time thing. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I come to find out, they said, whatever we did, whatever little adjustment, all of a sudden, bam, Earth reappeared. Okay, so we're like working through code, we're utilizing the Akash, we're working through timelines, we're utilizing everything there is, creator, everybody's involved in this. We're going back through like all this coding and all this crazy stuff that we've been doing is like when they say a rescue mission, which they've been telling us that we've been doing for a while, right. We've been trying to find, at least in one of these, we've been trying to find Earth. Earth disappeared.
Oh, you know why? Okay, because of they're talking about because of the dimensional shift, and it's gotten okay. So this is what I'm getting. There's something they're showing it going. I mean, a literal like Earth shifting down into the dark and not being able to find it amongst. Okay, they're showing like trying to dig and find it. I mean, this is a metaphor, right? But they're saying it because it's dimensional. It's that dimensional shift that we lost Earth. Does that make sense? Oh, yes. And what I'm getting with what you just said is the found Earth. Okay, they're aligning that they found Earth. They're aligning that with the fact that we have started to rise up. We rise out of the gunky 3D. Because
let me tell you.
Does that make sense to you though? Does that resonate?
But some of the ones that like were in that whole fall are like it was, okay, I don't know if you remember this, for months with me, there's okay, we're trying to find you, but we can't see you. You like went into a hole and it got covered up and it's like you just disappeared into nowhere. Yep. Well, apparently they're kind of talking to me like the collective Earth humankind kind of, they weren't just talking about Jennifer just disappearing. It was us as a group of collective, right?
That makes sense.
So so they're saying like that, and that there was such a cut off of our support that we've had to find our own way out.
Yes, that's exactly it. Look at me, I'm like, yes.
Where we were, we didn't know where we were, so we had to, like they said, raise in our free. And so we could get to the point where they could at least hear us. Some of them, they remember they're saying we're trying to do surgery with the blinders on. We can't see you. They were giving us all this.
I just heard something. They just said to me, they're giving a metaphor, and I never understand the science behind this, but they said it's like dark matter. We can't see you. We couldn't see you. You almost turned into dark matter in a energetic way, in a dimensional. Does that make sense to you?
It does, yes.
I don't know what dark matter, I mean, I don't know the science behind dark matter, which I won't bother to look up now, but I sure will later.
Yeah, there was some, anyway, there was, okay, so not only did Earth reappear, but also, so did love. Okay,
yes, they're showing this floating up. Mm-hmm.
Divine love element basically was also kind of, they're calling it vanished, okay? So vanished at the same time. So as we went through this and we did this one thing, the one magic bullet, basically in the reverse coding, we did one thing, earth and love reappeared at the same time, and everybody was just like screaming in the back of the ear.
I love this.
So I'm like, thank God, and everybody's like, oh my God. And I said something, I said, can you get this something or other? Like, you just got earth and love back. You can have anything you want. It was like we were reversing the coding. So you could tell that it was like, holy, everybody's just been like, I don't know. I think we could feel it. We could feel it. There's so little things that I've noticed over the last couple of years. And this is when I think this happened mostly, is you just notice that everybody wasn't quite as like your team or other, they weren't quite as upbeat. They were kind of worn down. They weren't smiling as much. They weren't, you could almost sense the tension, where on this side, they don't necessarily share all that with us.
Right.
So, like, they're not going to sit here and give me the whole download of it, even though I'm picking up on it and I'm feeling it. And when I'm not here, kind of back in that, I'm getting it. But when I come back past the veil, I don't remember. But you could tell, and I still can. There was significant amount of contention because all that the earth represents.
So what they are showing this visual of being lost in the dark. They keep saying lost in the dark matter. I don't know how. Anyway, point is we couldn't be seen. We had to find our own way out of the dark. Now, mind you, we're still working on this. We're not done. But the point is what I'm seeing, what they're showing me is the earth, as you'd see from outer space, coming up out of the complete darkness, the nothingness. And what you're seeing is the very top of earth now, if that makes sense. Like we're coming out of it.
It's like reappearing. Yeah.
So we've reappeared to their eyes as such.
Yeah.
In an energetic way. And it's a dimensional, you can, frequency, dimension, energy, same thing, right? But I mean, ultimately, so you know what that does though? I mean, honestly, that validates the work that everybody's been doing. And in the collective of the light workers, right? I mean,
there's a lot of it there's a lot that has, it's not been easy, as you know. You can talk to the whole light worker community. We're like,
it's not even close to done either.
Well, it's just been irregularly strange and difficult, right?
Very.
So, but I think that we were kind of getting the narrative all along, and when I was like, what's going on? Nothing makes sense. So we can't see you. I'm like, I don't know. You're there 1 minute and then you're gone. And then they said, you keep fading in and out like a hologram. Yes. And I'm like, what's going on? Why can't you guys, And so it's making so much more sense now, because they were talking about us totally, not just me, but the totality of, the group, the planet, humanity, everything. We were like, we can't see you. And there was this issue, also something that went down with that had to do with CERN. And CERN is a dark matter, and there's some stuff happening there. They don't necessarily have a full understanding of how they are affecting the universe or the multiverse on a larger scale. And so some of this does play back into CERN, actually.
Okay.
So of the difference into dark matter.
Oh, so dark matter is tied to CERN?
Oh, totally. Yes.
Oh, well then no wonder. That's weird, because I just got the words dark matter, didn't know anything about CERN. So that's so interesting.
No, because this is like, and I'm saying, well, what do you mean love? Love. They said like God love. And I said, okay, love disappeared. Like there was no love. And I said, love is such an ambiguous word in all of this, right? But are you talking about a particular, and they're talking about like the love is all kind of love was nowhere to be found. Okay. And CERN is trying to understand the God particle. So they're colliding at super high speeds to blow it apart so they can see and try to identify the God particle so they can understand the particle of creation. Well, the particle of creation would, logically also be the particle of destruction.
Right.
They're together, right?
Right.
So that's where you're getting dark matter, antimatter, and they're just colliding the shit out of these, excuse my language, particles to see what they can see, and not thinking micro, macro, above, below, inner is the outer. Even a tiny little particle can mean have a gigantic counterpart, right?
Sure.
They're not thinking this way. They're just doing it to see.
So you're talking about, let me make sure I understand this. So what you're talking about is, as they do that, this tiny little particle, that actually could have a much greater impact on things that the counterpart of that is bigger than it.
Okay. So think about this. Yes. So think about, okay, do you think there's less of God in a particle than in a universe?
Right. No.
So they're trying to crash and collide these things together so they will blow apart so they can look at it.
Right.
Okay. And these are the so-called God particles that they're doing this with.
Yes.
Okay. Identify and understand it. So I'm saying it is not just that particle in that collider. It is like they say, it's the grain of sand contains the entire beach.
Yeah,
right?
Now I understand where you're coming from. Yes, exactly.
And that there's going to have a massive effect. And I'm thinking this has something to do with the fact that Earth disappeared into dark matter.
So you're saying connecting CERN to that, where we went invisible.
I believe CERN was connected
into the dark matter, like they said.
I believe it's CERN, the fact that we just pulled Earth out of a dark matter where nobody could find us is probably very highly, if not very much, related to CERN.
Okay.
So, and probably has no clue that even is a timeline or a universe. And see, a lot of this stuff happens where, we don't always just like crash into a universe. Sometimes a parallel or alternative universe is immediately, instantaneously created, and another one dies right next to it.
Yes. And I got to share this because I swear our channels are getting trippier. What they're showing me as you're talking, because remember, I always get these paired visuals with when you talk lots of times. They're showing the small, and they're showing like the universe or whatever, forget what it is, but the small engulfing the large. It doesn't matter how do I explain this? It's, they just said the word metamorphosizing, I can't say it, metamorphosizing. And they're talking about the small can engulf the I don't know what they're trying to say here. Is this making any sense? It has something to do with the CERN thing.
Yes, and it is. It's antimatter. This is the whole point of this is they're crashing particles. Right. It is irrelevant that they are a particle.
Yes.
What matters is the energy, or the substance that is in the particle, because that is part of everything. Okay, so it can have massive effects that they may not on their human level have any freaking clue they've even done it. Yes. Right?
Yes.
So on a universal or cosmic, or so
it's cosmic. Mm-hmm.
You start talking with source, you start talking with some of the beings that watch over this. They're saying, okay, there is and we just confirmed yesterday, and I've been feeling it big time. There is a universe or reality or a multiverse that includes this.
Yes.
Where Earth disappeared into dark matter.
Okay, this is wild that I got that. Okay, all right. Yes.
And we have been there was another one that was almost immediately created where we were kind of flipped right into it. And our other one, there's two of them. And so they say there's opposite universes, there's mirror universes, there's universes where time is going the opposite direction, right? They're telling us this. A lot of this stuff has, I believe, is a product of at least partially, of CERN and some of the other things that we are doing on, like when they say we're there, we have metaphysical things that are in this planet that we're playing with, but we're not sure, or we don't know exactly what they're used for, but we're looking at them, trying to figure them out or utilizing them, and having no idea what kind of how it's affecting the universe, or
Right.
that kind of thing.
Because
So,
it's not just about a little particle that's inside this big machine. That particle could, okay, now I'm tying it. That particle, remember that visual I just said, that particle could engulf everything. Does that make sense to you?
yes,
That's
it does not.
that makes sense. So
Yes,
they're messing with something they don't understand the breadth, depth, and width of it, and the power that it has, right? But I mean, it's the same idea of just being able to engulf the larger as such, right? So that teeny particle they're talking about actually has, it's like okay, they're also showing like a black hole kind of effect, or not black hole, but what is one where it comes inside, like you go in, but everything goes
it's like a,
backwards, or
yes,
it engulfs it and wraps it. Oh God, I don't even know how to explain what I'm saying.
it's like a black hole almost, where it pulls everything, sucks
It
it in, kind of like but it's a void, like pulls it into a void, kind of,
Yes.
or
So what it could do, what the small one could do, not that we have to get this totally like visually perfect, but the small one is, with what the power that it has, can actually, okay, they're showing me how you put socks. All right, we're just going to show, we're going to do this. You know how you take your two socks and you fold them inside out? You know how you
How many times did we get that visual in my sessions over the last 2 years? We got that all the time, the socks inside of the socks. Remember?
That's what they're giving me again. They said the socks. And so that's what they're trying to say, is that's what this can do, is it pulls it inside of itself.
Yes, yes. And remember, I was saying, oh, my body hurts so bad, I feel like this is, and they were saying, that's the sensation you're getting in your body. So you think about this, and we're talking about a little particle at CERN having this happen, and it's happening to a universe. And then they say, we hold a universe inside of us. And so here I am telling you, my body feels like I'm being turned inside out. It hurts so bad. And here I am empathically feeling the universe being turned inside out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
So, like I said,
so where are we? Okay, but bring it back, right? So bring it back to present day. Bring it back to present day right now. What does this mean? What is this? What's happening? So, are you saying that this? They've just said basically we have found Earth again, and so to bring this down to earth for people. So basically, what we're saying is, if you want to talk about it in the simplest terms, we're making progress in the ascension because Earth is being seen again as rising in frequency and vibration and dimension. Is that correct?
Yeah. Now, yes. Now, if you remember too, we were talking about, they had mentioned CERN like months ago, and I said, okay, there's something going on with CERN, and they brought through, they said they were trying to get God gone. And that was the beginning of the undoing. And they said, that was the beginning of, and then like it was like almost like my higher corrective, and they said that was the attempt to undo, and it will never work. Do you remember this?
Yeah, vaguely.
Okay, so like at that time, I just heard the information. I had no context for it, but I remember it. Now that I'm hearing this more and more, and I'm getting more information about this, now I'm like, okay, wait a minute. So what I'm thinking is, in the process of that, it may not have, you can't, like mine was saying, you can't get gone, right? God gone or undo. It can't be done, but we can certainly experience different levels of existence with less or more God spark as part of the thing, so
because once again, that's another experience. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what we're here, is to have all these experiences. Yeah. Like, what's it like to not have that God spark fully in you? Kind of, that's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly right. So, and it's not enjoyable at all. if you want to go into full trippy, I don't know if you want, how far you want to go into this, but
Well, let's keep talking about a topic that people could learn something
okay.
from that applies to them or applies to ascension or awakening. I mean, that we can,
Okay.
that we can teach, that we can
there's a
channel.
potential. There's a potential forward. Okay. For instance, let's say had this been this particular one where there is not some of the, like, let's say that this had played forward and we did not just have this really amazing moment where we found the full divine, full love, earth, all of that was like, whoop, we just got it all back. And I felt it even rush back into my body. I could feel the difference immediately. So going forward, okay, let's say there's a timelines that are always, because everything's in the now, right? So let's, as I'm working on the correction of it, but as that vibration is happening, it's a full projection of that timeline going on, right?
Yes.
So in that, so there are future us, versions of us that are experiencing a timeline where there is no God spark any longer. And we are having to create purely out of technology, mind.
Yes.
And then having
well,
to
those
adapt.
are all different timelines, all different potentials, right? Because anything's a potential.
And as you flip, it doesn't wait, kind of like to see it. It is an immediate potential, full, backward and forward. Okay, as you do this, those are going to full future, full past. Every time you do this, it exists there. The whole thing.
What do you mean?
Okay.
Wait. Okay, clarify that. What do you mean? Whenever you do this, it's there.
Okay, let's say we're going along here in this now mode, and we have CERN decides to do such and such, right? Okay. And we have this, oh my God, we just lost God off the radar for a minute, right?
No, I get it now. Okay, yeah.
Holy shit. Now, in that moment of us doing that, the potential forward and backward, because all time exists in the now, the full future version of how that would play out is now complete and happening.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes, because this is how this works. Like if you know how they've talked about if you have a choice to make and you're pondering both decisions, they're actually both going to happen. But you make the choice, and then that other decision has a life of its own, all right, and has some energy to it and creates its own timeline. Does that make sense? That's what I've always been told that. So when we have these choices, everything is a choice that you put energy into to consider manifesting, but you choose the other one. The other one's still alive, creates its own timeline.
Okay, now let's say that timeline is obviously created in that moment where we drop in there. We have a time period where we have just lost God. Okay.
Yeah.
So
because of something someone did somewhere, I don't know, in a lab or whatever, right? Yes.
And so that has a future potential timeline. And so things like, let's say those future versions of us are going in that future timeline thinking, we really need to figure out how, we're not doing very well, whatever. And maybe we need to go back to the time period where we feel like that may have gone, and we want to go back. So you have things, future us's that look very different because this didn't play, coming back into like a so-called area, like an area 51, for example.
Okay. But what I'm tying this to, okay, so now this is going to get super trippy. So at least I think it is. Not that it's not already. However, so what I'm getting here too, as you're talking, they're showing me, but this is how ascension works. You can then ascend. If you find yourself, for whatever reason, in that kind of environment, because you are now, they just said an ascended master. Okay, so they're using that. You're able to ascend out literally like Jesus did with the body. All right. So you're ascending out of those circumstances, that timeline, that dimension, to say, no, I don't want this. I'm going here, if that makes sense. So it's like, okay, Well, they just
Yes.
said to me, you become your own time traveler, which, oh my God, this is so weird that I'm watching. I just started last night, the Netflix series Traveler. And well, I mean, that's what it's about. It's about coming from the future to the present. Are you familiar with it?
Oh yeah, I've watched every season of it.
Oh, well, I
Yes, yeah.
haven't. I didn't know anything about it until
Ah,
the other day. And because I was looking last night, it was actually last night. But this is what they're showing. So it's like
yeah.
you become your own time traveler when you are able to ascend with the body and you get to that level of, they just said light and energy. So to what you're talking about, you're able to move. Okay, they just said move in and out of experiences like the one you might be talking about at will. So this is tying to what you're talking about, and whatever's created out there. Okay, they just said we can access.
It's not wild.
Oh
So
my Lord.
it's interesting because I don't know, like, it would pick them up, or I'm not sure how exactly it's done, but this is the thing. This is I don't know. Are you familiar with what happened at Area 50, the crash
Oh
at
yeah.
in Roswell? Okay, okay, and they
Well,
interviewed
I
some
mean,
of.
yeah, yes, I'm definitely familiar.
So they, that's actually come out a bunch recently. It like reappeared on YouTube, even though it's old. It reappeared recently a lot for some reason. The interview they did with one of these, it was a classified interview they did with one of these ETs, and he was basically explaining how the Earth had destroyed itself in a nuclear war, and um, they had come back because there was a huge like missing gap of history. Something had gotten destroyed. The history had gotten wiped where they couldn't really figure out what happened or
I didn't know
how.
about this. I didn't know about
Yeah.
this.
So their species had to adapt, go underground and adapt, and they look a lot like gray, like tall gray, kind of with ants looking. They said our body had to adapt to this in order to survive the environment because of the nuclear fallout and all this kind of stuff. But we are basically you in the future after this nuclear fallout, and we're coming back trying to figure out how we can assist in make it, trying to change this.
Okay, wait. So you're saying that this is linked to what you're saying just now is linked to Area 51?
Yes.
So they basically, those beings who.
So the drop to the no God, because they talked about having this, until a lot of our warring was over, the dogma of like religion and God, this kind of thing, the nuclear conflict apparently was over this thing as well, but it was
Okay.
He described what happened as the same thing that I heard and saw about us dropping lower, like you said, dropping into the dark.
Right.
After this thing that was attached within CERN. So, all of these events are not necessarily perfectly lined up in historical order, but that doesn't matter, right?
So let me make sure I understand this, because I want to give you something that I just got. So what the beings were saying essentially is they were on a particular timeline where
yes,
that they came from that timeline that they chose. Yes. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. They're trying to tell me they chose that experience, and I'm like, what? So anyway, so they're in that experience of us having a nuclear thing, right, going on, right? And that, okay, and that we basically kind of destroy our Earth. Is that what you said? Okay.
Pretty much.
But so my point is they came from that timeline, and what they're telling, right? I mean, you're validating that. Okay. So what they're saying to me as I'm getting that, they said it's actually going, gosh. So those timelines exist, but now it's about the collective choice.
Yes.
With what we're doing presently with the awakening and ascension as to what timeline we will take. Are we going to take that one as an example? They're all out there. It's kind of like a candy store. You know what I mean? Yeah. In fact, that's what they're showing me. Like, oh, there's everything under the sun. You've been in those candy stores where you can have anything you want under the sun as much as you want, blah, 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 right?
Yes.
that's how, like, there's how many timelines there are out there, but they're talking about collective choice. Okay, and of course they're talking about out of love, which will you choose? Okay, so they're saying which will you choose collectively, because what they're showing you is what can happen when you don't choose love.
Yes, and that's basically what it was. We were, that's kind of like, I felt like some of us had chosen, apparently. I always kind of choke on that word sometimes, like, I don't know if I chose this, but at some level maybe we did, to do like this recovery, like the rescue thing, like what we're doing now. I feel like I've been in and out of this, coding and looking and searching and doing reverse coding and looking into all these timelines about how could this have happened, where I have been working to get back kind of a particular vibrational frequency that I am familiar with, that I felt drop significantly. And we've been like kind of looking around trying to figure out how did this happen. And so I believe, whether I was involved, I don't think I was involved in that one, because I felt like I came from one and I kind of like dropped into that one or something. And then I've been in it for almost 2 years, doing this almost like search and recovery feeling kind of thing. So I don't know, Carolyn, maybe, what time era I came from to do that, or, I'm not sure, but I feel like I was in this, we need to find the original Earth, the jewel. They even called it, calling it a gem. They were saying gem, but the jewel, how you always get Earth is the jewel. Mm-hmm. That's the one that was missing. Okay. So, finding the jewel, and then, and trying to figure out what happened to love. So it's like those two huge kind of components that a lot of us hold kind of near and dear to us had disappeared. And I feel like that's kind of what we've been doing, at least partially. I have been in participating.
No. Right. Now. Right. God, I feel like I don't know where we're at on. I mean, I do, but I mean, like, what is the wrap up to? I guess there is no wrap up to this part, but
I don't know. It's just
really getting anything else, but oh my gosh, because this is just weird though that we're talking about this. The movie, the Traveler shows up. Yeah. From the future, and we're talking. Well, I think if we listen to it again, all these people, they all tie of what we just said. I don't know what we just said though.
Well, it's I don't know what the big we get both like, well, you chose the experience. It's all been like, sometimes I think, okay, sure, but at other times I've been in such extreme situations and felt such extreme stuff going on that I just know is not right.
Well, I'm talking collective choice when it comes to the Earth thing, the ascensions.
Yes, but I do think too that there is a component about collective choice, like you're saying, and sometimes those, they say, that chose that experience, they don't always necessarily not bleed into somebody else's experience who may not have chose that, right? Yes. So I think that there's some of that kind of going on.
I think it's simplistic in how we describe it, because we have to describe it. Okay, so here's what I get is we are getting explained to us in a very, without all the intricacies and detail, because if no way to explain it to minds that don't have a hard trouble grasping what we just even talked about, because like we're sitting here going, don't know. And so there's so many different intricacies within. Okay, they just said, imagine any possibility that could occur can occur in all different kinds of mixes. So I mean, if you think about the fact that, the argument, or it's not an argument, the comment always is, source came in, exploded out in the, what we could call the Big Bang or whatever, how many ever Big Bangs there were. The Big Bang creates all of us little divine sparks to come out and explore and experience everything possible under the sun, right? So if that's the case, then every probability, possibility, anything that could ever possibly occur will and must occur in order to have full experience, full expression as source. Think about it. So then, okay, so and where does that end? Oh, they just said limitless. Okay, so it's limitless, which also goes to what we said the other day. This is an unending process, a never-ending process. So basically, remember how we come back to, we're all coming in together as the oneness of our own selves, but then the oneness is of the collective, and then eventually back to source, ultimately to zero point, to the nothingness. And then remember I said to them, well, then what happens? And they said, we do it all over again. And so what they're talking about is this limitless ability to expand beyond any knowing we've ever imagined, because of every possibility, probability, any kind of thing occurring can and will occur in the expansiveness of human consciousness, they just said. Okay.
Wow. Okay. I know, it's wild, isn't it?
There was a little channeling moment that I went into there.
That's good.
I'm not sure what I said, but I'll listen to it again. Yeah.
Well, you know, when I was like this morning, I'm like, holy shit, I mean, like just flooding in. But Carolyn, so much has happened just today.
Oh my God.
And I can't even remember, you know, my son and I have been like typing a lot today. And so
that was so interesting to do. Ugh.
It is really unbelievable. Like the different stuff that's happening and the things I'm hearing. I'm just like, what is going on? Different timelines.
Okay, I mean, so let me ask you a question, because I just find this so intriguing. So does he understand? Did you talk about awakening and or ascension, or is he able to talk like that? Are you able to communicate on this high level thing that's happening for?
He's having a really hard time, like even having any kind of human understanding about anything else going on. He is so out there right now.
Because he's not of this plane. I mean,
yeah. And so even his like so-called human aspects that are supposed to be familiar with this earth plane, they're like looking around like, where am I? You know, I don't, those are even not even connected to him at the moment.
When every time we talk about him, they show me the same visual. And I actually almost get a feeling in me, and it's, see, I'm not going to be able to describe it. They always show him as expansive as, like, where he lives is as expansive as the universe, the multiverse is like, do you know what I'm saying? Like his awareness level and reality, Earth, our reality as a human is so small compared to what his understanding is. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, totally does.
And they're showing it, and it's
well, I felt it before, because you know, he doesn't have awesome boundaries. And so
that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Boom. And then I just like went expanded out, and like it was, I'm like, holy moly.
And that's what he can do. He can expand it. He can expand out. He can and contract too, they're saying, but expand out. So
yeah, it's really interesting to be in, like, and watch him go through all of this, because he is so.
Yeah, because he lives in his consciousness all the time. Think about it. He lives at higher consciousness constantly.
He would really struggle to be here to do. It's interesting to watch him. There's no way to really describe it.
You know what I'm getting? I'm so interrupting you all the time, but I keep getting stuff about what I'm getting. You may already know this, is he, as well as other autistic children, particularly those with a more severe form. Okay, they're talking about it's a vibrational difference. Part of the reason they're here is they're holding so much high frequency in them. They're here actually grounding, rooting, helping just by being in their autistic state. Does that make sense to you?
Totally, yes.
Whoa, they're just so showing this. It's like
it doesn't match, but it has to get here, and it doesn't match here. But I told you,
but just being
him, he is like expressing frequency. So can't tell you how many, you know, he's had therapy since he was young because of on being on the spectrum, he's around, just being around him. Do you know how many of his therapists have woken up?
Oh, that makes so much sense.
He's had like teachers and
I just heard he activates people.
Totally. And I attribute that to, I told you that was mine. All of a sudden I started just like, but he brought, just being around that frequency, it just, starts yours. So,
yep.
But yes, I think it's totally,
you know what they just said? They just showed me, when your car battery's dead and you hook it up to another car battery, they're showing that as a metaphor.
It's funny to see it too, because we're thinking, and I'm kind of like not champion, but I have to be kind of like the representative for the human experience, because I'm that's kind of my role, for at least for him, even though I tap into my higher being, and I'm almost exactly like him. Really, if I tap in, I really feel like I'm the same, like we're from the same energy.
Yep.
But I've been here more, right? I've been in the human experience more often, or longer, or whatever. So I'm kind of playing the role of being the advocate for on this side, so to speak.
Yes.
And so it can be funny sometimes, and other times it can be horrifying, but the lack of understanding that consciousness has about this experience can be astounding.
Oh, that's right? What I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. Totally.
Don't understand anything, right? Nope. It's like so in some ways sometimes it can be hilarious, because especially with some of the, like, I'll say slang or use sarcasm, and it's like I hear a whole conversation happening where somebody's having to explain to the group that's here what I meant by what I just said. But in other ways, they don't understand the body or the experience. It can be kind of almost dangerous for even him. He's had like weird discomfort things happen to him, and he's like totally frustrated with what's happening with his body. He doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. So that consciousness level and this experience, there's a massive divergence in these two things. So coming together, you're getting that behavior that looks like autism, right? But it's like they didn't do a step down approach into the body or into this experience. The rest of us did. They came in and they're just like, holy crap.
That's exactly right. Yep, absolutely.
So it'd be like us just showing up in the body, and it
doesn't match the body, right? They're
yes, language, or you're not knowing, the frequency feels bad, the body feels gross, just showing up and having no ease into it.
Yeah, so what you're showing me is like trying to squeeze something into a container that it's not suited for, or won't fit. And once but they get it in there, and then it's just like feels like you're in some kind of tight suit or something horrible, right? Like a binding. But I mean, they're showing how it's not a fit. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, and it's.
Oh, you know why they're saying they're talking about squeezing that amount of consciousness. Wow, and awareness, galactic. They're talking about galactic awareness into the human body.
Yes,
But there's a whole group of people, think about it, that have chosen to come in with autism, because I don't want to say it's new, but it's newer, right? It's newer issue. And so they just keep talking about the waves of them coming in, because there's something about bringing in that amount of, they're talking about consciousness, frequency, vibration, energy, all that into a human body for these times. They came in for ascension. That's why they're coming in. That's why they came in. So I wonder, and you may know this, the history of autism, when things really started to we started to really see it. What years was that, would you say? 80s? 90s?
I don't know. It didn't explode until I started focusing on it, obviously, after I had my own kids.
Right.
But I would say my general kind of noticing of it was in the 90s.
That's what I was thinking too. But think about this, with the shift and change and the 2012 Mayan calendar and the Aquarian age,
Oh my God. In
precursor.
the last
This is all
years,
makes sense that they came in when they did.
well, what they have said to, what he has told me and what others, like there's kind of a Star Kids collective group that is
Yep.
in my list too. And it's the higher beings, the higher selves of these kids. They don't really have a higher being. They are their higher being.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So but they don't love to be in the body. So they kind of like, they joke around, they show like just sticking a toe in, right?
Yeah.
And that just enough
Yeah.
to kind of operate it because it doesn't feel good, right?
Right.
So they were telling me that the plan is that, and they always say, don't feel sorry for us, don't pity us, we don't like that, that's not necessary. And they're saying like our day's coming, don't worry. And when we get to a certain area or phase of this ascension, then they can really get in, and their entire behavior and everything will change, because it will then be moving.
It'll match.
There can come in, and then they can express
this.
But he always says like, don't feel sorry for me, don't worry about me, don't worry about what's going to happen to me in the future. He says all that is so unnecessary, Mom.
Yep.
I'm like, that's hard to hear, right. Especially.
Right.
But it's really interesting to watch, because he's saying, like you guys are, a lot of you are trying to get us to speak and really we're here, nonverbal communication, to teach you to activate your telepathy, to activate your understanding of your like conceptual communication. And you're really trying to get us to talk because you think that that's necessary to survive here. And he's saying, don't worry about that. You don't understand what's coming.
Right.
He said, don't worry about that so much. And now that I'm feeling like mine kicked on so heavy, I don't worry about it anymore.
No.
I worry more about the rest of us catching up to the telepathy, because that's actually how we need to be communicating.
Oh, completely. I totally agree with you. And so here's something that's real interesting that I want to add to this. And maybe I already talked about this, but I think I did to you when we were talking personally, is people might say, well, yeah, but it's all caused by this, and this in our environment and blah, blah, blah. And may, who knows, right? But the point is what I'm very much been receiving lately is, I don't know how to describe this well, but the things that contribute to maybe a cause of something,
yes.
Or like someone who has like a lot of childhood trauma, and there's a lot of issues that happened, and then they bring in a lot of inner child stuff into their adulthood. Well, it's actually a spiritual, that's the vehicle. The thing that happened is the vehicle to have the spiritual journey part of that, the ascension part of that, because without that inner child work, there's no there's no journey to awakening and ascension. Does that make sense? Peeling back the layers. So the vehicle for you have to have the trigger, you have to have the thing in humankind that makes it happen. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yes. And with what I'm getting with, well, so, and that could apply potentially to those who have autism with the idea of, well, we have things in our environment or medicines or whatever that are causing that. But there's a spiritual purpose for it happening in the collective. And does that, I'm probably not explaining this very well. Does it make sense?
It's perfect, because you think about this. Okay. So all of those things that we're talking about can be researched and proven. There's studies that have been done. There's scientific, that like, the pesticides, the GMO in the food, maybe some of the stuff that they're putting in vaccines, or some of the other things that we're doing. This is one of the explanations or the research path that most parents take when they find out their child has autism. Okay, it's one of the first things you start doing. You start researching these things. What are the possibilities? Then you start finding out. Now, when you look at this process, this is almost like that's just scratching the surface of disclosure.
Yeah.
It,
Right.
it's when you start seeing things and looking deeper and not just taking everything at face value and just going with the flow. You start looking in, and now you've got skin in the game. You've got a child who's affected. So now you're looking at it and you're going, hold on a minute. They're doing what now? What do you mean they're putting that in our food? And you start to look at it and go, oh my God, I've been allowing this and just going along and doing my thing all this time.
Yes.
That is the beginning phases of disclosure.
Yes.
And what you're doing is you're just taking your first baby steps into awakening.
It's your
And most
catalyst.
of
That's
us,
right. That's right. That's it. That's the vehicle. So you do get what I'm talking about, because I didn't think I was explaining them. Yes, it's the vehicle. Those things that happen is the vehicle to get us to that. Yes.
yes, and that will eventually, like I that took me into that part of it, like there's a awakening, like a truther awakening, and then there is a more of a spiritual awakening. Well, sometimes people get to the spiritual awakening through the truther path.
I did. In
Yeah.
fact, my initial, when I go back and look at what I didn't think was part of my awakening, certainly was the bigger part of my unconscious, conscious awakening, was when I started going, oh, what are those white streaks in the sky? That doesn't look right. Chemtrails, blah, blah. And then I just went all into like, oh, political stuff. And it was all just showed up and had to show up for a reason. Now, I didn't lose myself in it. I just went, oh, I was more like, oh.
Yes, does certain things to the constructed personality that is rigid, right?
Right.
And you have, if you had gone straight from Carolyn without any truther straight into full-blown spiritual, you'd have been like, what in the hell are these people talking about?
Right.
You have to create the path, and part of that path is breaking some of these rigid systems that you've got in your construct. Yes. And as soon as those things start to break down, then when you start hearing maybe something that's a little bit more metaphysical, energetic, like speaking like energy medicine, quantum, right, then your brain isn't immediately in this reject mode anymore, because you've broken these very rigid things by at least getting in it through like maybe even a scientific path. Yes. And you've broken some of those down. So it allows you, when you hear these metaphysical things, you will remember that that is correct, right? It's not even a convincing yourself of it. It's breaking down enough construct that when you hear it, you're going, oh my God, that's how mine was. That's right. I remember it. I remembered it being true. Right?
And again, if you think of big picture, if we didn't have those things to unfold and go, oh God, those are chemtrails, or God, this is this. Look at all this stuff that's happening. Oh my God, it's not. It's the false face. I was thinking it was a. I thought all this was real and true, and everybody was trying to do good, and then you find out that we have to have that. We had to have that, all that, to pop us awake so that we can go through ascension, to get us out of the lower dimension that we created all those eons ago. So something has
that ripping off that complacent, tolerant person.
Well, but my point is there's got to be a catalyst now, catalysts in modern day for us to wake up, because it's coming from being asleep in the past. So what are you going to do to get a collective awake? You're going to have a lot of stuff go down that's not good, right? And we got to go, oh my God, and then get shocked awake. So if you look big picture, this is all this nasty stuff is here to make us, or to use as part of our awakening journey. And many of us, most of us, go through a form of the truther journey.
Yeah, because it's the bridge. It's like, science is easier for somebody who's asleep than metaphysics immediately, right?
Totally.
So
exactly.
The path you have to go through to get there.
Okay, everybody, there's your video today. Hopefully you've enjoyed the conversation with Jennifer and myself and taken something away for your own journey. Check out purplerainhealing.com for all of my services. If you would like to work with me to get channeled messages for your own journey and guidance forward, I offer all kinds of services that allow you to do that, either on the phone, on Zoom, one-on-one, having conversation for an hour, and they are such robust sessions. Essentially, I channel information for you in these sessions as we talk through the things you want to cover. So all of the sessions are super robust in the sense of being able to help you on a journey forward, whether it be one-on-one mentoring with me over a period of time that you choose for yourself, distance energy healing, and an email summary, or channeled messages in audio format. So I'm going to leave that with you today. purplerainhealing.com. Check out all my services. I would love to work with you. And in the meantime, like, share, and subscribe these videos, if you will, please. It helps me reach more people who might benefit from these videos. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video.